let's be real. Boundaries can feel about as fun to set as putting together the bread box I got from Amazon not too long ago. There were no instructions, about a gazillion pieces, and I almost ended up just in a heap of frustration. Thankfully, my husband stepped in. But if you're navigating recovery from addiction or if you're trying to heal, boundaries aren't just helpful, they're essential. You can think of them like your personal GPS. They're steering you away from, those potholes and danger zones and speed bumps and toward a life that's healthier, happier, and it helps calm that chaos that we sometimes feel inside our minds. Hi, I'm Laura, and I welcome you to Bookends of Recovery, the podcast where healing, hope, and most importantly, you take center stage. I'm so glad you're here. So today, I'm doing another installment in my series on triggers, and we are focusing on one of my favorite topics. I know I say that all the time, but boundaries. And by the end of this, you are going to rock at boundary setting. Not only am I sharing tips in this podcast, but I also have a worksheet on my website. So let's get started. We've talked before about people, places, things, in situations that make you feel like, those triggers are about to bust through. So let's work on those boundaries first. And, emotions can do that too. So let's talk about people first. Because sometimes we have, maybe it's a friend who is just going to say, come on, let's go get one drink. That can't hurt, right? Or maybe it's even like your family member who thinks like their life motto is life's too short, live dangerously. Maybe it's even someone who will kind of just poke fun at the way you're living now. Like if you're someone who's into meditation and they're just going, well, meditation's for like hippy dippy people. You can politely or firmly or not even that politely put some distance there. You can think of that as your emotional social distancing. And you can do that a bunch of different ways. You don't have to have an explanation, especially for someone that continues to hinder your recovery and healing. You are trying to make positive changes for yourself, so you don't have to feel guilty about making those changes. This is not a space that you have to create forever. It's just for now. I remember someone telling me that somebody that now this is before I was in emotional, doing my emotional sobriety, and I was doing things that were super unhealthy for me. And so I remember telling somebody that the person I was seeing was, he drank a lot. And the person, instead of saying something like, well, then maybe you shouldn't see this person, they went, well, he's not Mr. Right, but maybe he's just Mr. Right now. And I was like, yeah, totally. Like, instead of that person guiding me in a healthy direction, they just hopped on the bandwagon because they were not healthy either. So you want to surround yourself with people who are lifting you up in a healthy way, not people who are encouraging unhealthy behavior. So take a look at the people you're surrounding yourself with And if you're noticing that they're more apt to point you in a direction that's not healthy for you, it's okay to put some distance there and not feel guilty about it. And like I said, it may not be forever, it can be until you're in a healthier mindset to where you can put guidelines and boundaries in place to where you just limit your time with them. And if you think that, I don't know, maybe your favorite dive bar or a website is calling your name, ghost them. Sometimes places are not healthy to be around. Think of it like breaking up with your triggers, right? So you deserve better than what they're offering you. And you deserve only the best right now. So if it means that you need to find a different way to drive home from, where you're going, if it's whether it's to or from work or from, a healthy person, a support system to get to and from their place, or change up your routine so you're not walking by there like at typical times, like maybe it's happy hour, or sometimes we do things just out of habit, like it's your first stop after work, change that up. And if it's a website that you typically go to at a certain time of day, change that as well. Do something in its place. And even objects can be sneaky little triggers. Maybe it's an old shot glass, or, for me, it was like a mirror that I had. Even like my Zippo lighter, I think I've talked about that before. If you're trying to quit smoking, just, throw out what it is that you're trying to get rid of. Take the garden shears to it and cut it out of your life. If it's something like pornography, delete everything possible, whether it's apps, your history, get rid of it. You can get a lockbox, put your phone in there, and be mindful if it's something that you may want to keep after. I've talked before about when I was trying to heal, and I threw out things that I should have kept. I should have put in the back of my closet because, some things you just can't get back, like pictures or art, or maybe it's something that you got while you were on vacation and, you just can't get that back. So just store them out of sight until you're ready to see them again. And in hindsight, I probably should have kept that Zippo because it was a New York Giants, which they suck right now, but they'll come back one day. And you can't get the one that I had because they don't have that logo anymore. And same thing with situations, whether it's a holiday gathering or work parties, family events, even stressful meetings, like these situations can make a trigger pop like a firework. So be the willow tree. Bend with the wind, but don't break. Limit your time there, whenever possible. Utilize grounding techniques. I know, like somebody there is listening right now and going, oh no, she's going to talk about deep breathing. Yes, I am. But it's because it works. But yeah, just take a moment and just do some deep breaths. But adapt whenever possible. And it's hard to say no. I know it is. And it can feel super awkward, especially if you're trying to set boundaries with, you know, old friends or family, even yourself. But remember, I've said it before and I'll say it again. No is a complete sentence. And you can do these in a friendly way. Like you can say, thanks for thinking of me, but I'm going to pass this time. You can be a little bit more firm. You can say something like, I'm not doing that anymore, and I need you to respect that. Because sometimes people need to hear you stand firm because they may not be used to the new you. They may be used to walking all over you. And if that's the case, then there's no harm in, you can still be respectful, but if you're someone who struggles with saying no and you're kind of like, oh God, they're going to be so mad at me and blah, 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 don't worry about it. Because you need to be able to learn to say no, but be firm. And that's when this would be perfect for you. I'm not doing that anymore, and I need you to respect that and leave it at that. Don't start going because of this and because of that, because you don't need to explain yourself. You just leave it at that. You can also just be like, oh, would you look at that? I gotta go feed my dog. Even if you don't have a dog, this works. Like, I don't know if any of you watch Veep or used to watch Veep. I still watch it all the time. But Mike from Veep, he got away with that for years. um, you know, Old friends might not get it. Some family members might roll their eyes. And you know what? That's okay. You're protecting your peace. You're protecting your four walls. It's your fortress and it's being built brick by brick. And the more often you say no, the easier it will be to say no and not feel bad because you know that you're doing it for yourself. And it'll just you won't feel as guilty and you won't feel like right after you say it you have to make an excuse real fast. Or you'll have to be like, well, you know what? Okay, never mind. You'll be like, no, I'm good. You know, you'll just, okay, I'm not doing it. If you want, you can take this moment to practice saying no. Uh, Bonus points for practicing in the mirror. You can say something like, no thanks, I'm good. And practice that until it rolls off your tongue. You know, try it right now. Okay, I'm not really going to sit here in silence while you do it. And don't forget, like, your environment should be a safe space for you. It should work to your advantage. So if you're finding that your surroundings are triggering, then you need to make some changes. And that doesn't mean that you need to like flip your entire house unless that's something you're into, but like at home, make it a trigger-free environment. Swap out harmful items for things that bring you peace and motivation. It can be anything from like plants, positive affirmations, your go bag, healthy snacks that don't lead to cravings. These are just things that I'm thinking of. If you need help setting up your safe space at home, you've got I've got a blog post on creating a safe space. You can just Google that on my or search that on my website. And at work, if office happy hours are like a thing where you work, just consider skipping them or suggesting like an alternative way to connect with coworkers. Like, I don't know, coffee or like a diner. And you might be surprised by how many other people prefer like a quiet, cozy spot versus a loud bar. Um, Social life, be upfront with your friends about what you're comfortable with. Real friends will respect your choices. And the others, kind of think of them like extras in the movie of your life. Don't be a friend, be afraid to send them to the cutting room floor. Your goal is to surround yourself with people who align and support your recovery and your healing journey. And I know me saying it is kind of like, well, yeah, it's easy for you to say. I have spoken before about having to, I don't want to say leave, but to remove someone from my life who, I mean, she was my best friend, but she was making so many unhealthy decisions that I could not be around her. And it was really hard. And so now we have, now that I'm on solid footing, uh, she still makes very unhealthy choices from time to time, but I've been able to find a compromise on how to maintain a relationship with her, but it's nothing like we used to have. Um, Setting boundaries isn't about shutting people out, it's about letting the right people in and keeping your well being intact. Think of it kind of like being a bouncer of your own life because you deserve that VIP treatment. And I think a lot of times we forget what we deserve in life. And that's really important to remember because I think sometimes when we're in recovery, well, I don't want to speak for everyone, but at least for me, I didn't realize what I actually deserved because I had such low self esteem. And so sometimes when I was trying to create boundaries, I didn't realize that my self esteem was just on the floor. And so that made it really difficult for me to create boundaries. And it took time for me to understand how valuable I was and how much self worth, that I deserved. So you have the right to ask for what you want, um, refuse requests or, demands you can't meet, to express your feelings, whether they're positive or negative, as long as you're doing it in a respectful way. You also have the right to change your mind. I think that's something a lot of us struggle with because sometimes we think, well, if I've already said that I'm going to do something, then I have to stick with that. But sometimes when we say that we're going to do something and then we put some thought into it and then we're kind of like, wow, I probably shouldn't have said I was going to do that. We have a right to change our mind. And it's okay to make mistakes and not be perfect. And we have the right to say no to anything if we're not ready, especially if it's unsafe or it violates our values. Um, we can make decisions based on our feelings. And a big one that I struggled with in the very beginning of my recovery was that we have the right to not be responsible for other people's behaviors, actions, feelings, or problems. Because I was somebody that I felt like if somebody wasn't happy, whether it was my husband, my children, someone at work, I felt like I needed to solve their problem. And then if I wasn't solving their problem, then I either didn't have the right to be happy like if I had a fantastic day and I came home and, one of my kids had a shit day, then, well, maybe I shouldn't be happy because they're not happy. And that's just not true. I mean, to a certain extent, like obviously, at when they're older, not when they're tiny. But, you know, people are responsible for themselves. You're not responsible for them. And we have a right to expect honesty from others. So if you're noticing that, the people that are around you are lying to you, we need to evaluate who we're surrounding ourselves with. And it's the same thing. Like, just because we love someone doesn't mean we can't be angry with them. It's okay to love someone and be angry with them. Those two things can coexist. Just like me, I can be uniquely myself and embrace myself and understand that, like with my podcast, I know it's not great, but it makes me happy. And doing my blog makes me happy, and sharing my, words of advice on Reddit makes me happy. And I can embrace all that, you know? So you embrace whatever you want to do and be uniquely yourself. And on the same side of the, or flip side, I guess, it's okay to be scared and say, I'm afraid to do this. Setting boundaries is scary, and that's okay. You can do it, though. I know you can. Just like it's okay to say, I don't have all the answers. It's nobody has all the answers. I wish we did, but that's just not how life works. So just know that when we're setting boundaries, you want to do that in a way that is healthy and respectful, and not as a way to control somebody, right? Because, it's not about, because I used to think that, the way I used to think that the way I was creating boundaries was a great way. It's not. I think that's probably why I love them so much. But I was trying to control an uncontrollable situation and was making everybody miserable in the process. But boundaries are about emotional security and not control. And if you're somebody who needs to work on your boundaries, know that sometimes it takes time and practice. And if you find that people are crossing your boundaries like crazy, it's okay to have quote unquote consequences. Like if you've asked somebody not to come into your house with drugs, and then they come into your house with drugs, say, look, if you do this again, I'm not going to be able to, have you come over after that. Or if if you don't want to be around people who are high, say, please don't come to my house when you're high, and they do it, then say, look, we're not going to be able to hang out again, until you respect my wishes. So it's okay to create those consequences. So, yeah, I could go on and on for hours, but I will spare you all. So, yeah, but don't forget, you deserve to have your boundaries respected. And don't forget to check out the Boundary Blueprint workbook on my website. If you have a thought or a question about boundaries, please let me know. Obviously, I love them. I could ramble on forever because I love hearing from all of you. And I'm definitely here to support your journey. So message me on Facebook at Bookends Addiction of Recovery. Or you can share your thoughts on my latest blog post at bookendsofrecovery.com, which is where you'll find the workbook. And I want you all to take care, my superstars. And I am sending you all super positive vibes. Once again, I am so grateful you're here. Have an amazing day because you deserve it.